question quite often about how to determine yarn weight on an unknown yarn, a yarn without a label. And I'll get right into how that works. There is a measuring system called WPI, or wraps per inch. And it's what the whole industry is supposed to be using for, so there's a standard for different yarn weights. But if you've been knitting for a while, I'm sure you've probably run into fingering weight yarn that knits up like a worsted, or bulky yarn that knits up, it seems to be all over the map, but all of the yarn companies are supposed to be using this same standard of measurement. And you can use this, you can make your own measuring tool like I have here so that you can determine the weight of a yarn that you're not sure about. Really, you need to measure out an inch on something that has anything that is even up and down. It can be a pencil or a ruler, or not a chopstick, because chopsticks are narrower at one end and thicker at the other, but anything that's the same. It doesn't matter how wide the cylinder is or how narrow, because we're not measuring how many times around, we're measuring how the wraps measure up next to each other. And what I've done is I've taken just a pencil, obviously, and I've used medical tape. This is that squishy medical tape that sticks to itself, and it works pretty well because it actually has some thickness to it, so it holds the yarn in place so I can measure. Let me back up a little bit. The trickiest part is to know how tightly to wrap while you're trying to get this measurement. And the best thing that you can do is to test out, to have some control tests where you know the weight of a yarn and you test out the wraps, and it'll give you practice in how tightly to wrap, so that when you do wrap the unknown yarn, you'll be wrapping it the same as the others. I think it's kind of fun. Let's go ahead and take a look. Here is my WPI tool. I just measured out an exact inch and then put the tape on either side, and it's not going anywhere. It's probably my permanent WPI tool, because I think if I take this tape off, the pencil will be permanently sticky. So I will give you a link to this. This is something that I found on Ravelry. It is Ravelry Standard Yarn Weights. And we have the different names that we use here in the US for the yarn weights, and the different names used in the UK, New Zealand, and Australia. And then this is the WPI measurement. And so, for instance, for fingering, you should get 14 wraps per inch. For DK weight, 11 wraps per inch, and so on. And I'm going to test out, I'm going to show you how this works on my little WPI tool with some known weights of yarn to see how it's done and how tightly I have to wrap it to get there, because I know I know how many I should have. So I have this yarn that is a bulky weight, and I'm going to get it right up against the medical tape here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You see, I wasn't wrapping tightly, I wasn't smashing those together, but 7 wraps per inch on bulky yarn is exactly how it was supposed to measure out. So let's do another one. Of course, this is probably best for you to practice this yourself, because I know people have they hold yarn with different tension. This is a worsted weight yarn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I couldn't get a 10th one in there, and 9 wraps per inch is indeed correct for a worsted weight yarn. Now, if you can smash these together, but it's not going to do you any good. Just line them, just kind of wrap them up the way that they want to just wrap, loosely and naturally. This is a sport weight yarn. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to smush that together a little bit because it's, there we go. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Double check. Oh, a sport weight yarn should be 12. Okay, yes. Wow, that was just right. Okay. I thought, oh no, I must have wrapped too loosely. No, I've got it. So then I don't have an unknown weight of yarn, but I just got some good practice in there with 3 different yarn weights. And if I had an unknown weight of yarn, I could wrap it and probably tell pretty well what pause, what the weight of the yarn is, because I'm practiced at just how tightly it should wrap to get to the correct numbers. Anyway, that is how to create your own WPI tool and how to use it. I hope you can go back and figure out all those unknown yard weights now. Good luck.